Good morning. It's now 9 a.m. and I'll call the Sewage and Water Board Finance and Administration Committee meeting to order.
Director Howard,
Here.
Director Cole, Director Duplessis, Director Kennedy, Director Thomas.
This is the right one. This is not the right one. I hope.
That's the full board, sounds like.
No, this is a committee, it's only 5.
Different group. Different group. Yeah.
I'm sorry. Director Scruggs,
Present.
Director Kennedy. Chair, we have a quorum.
Okay, good. Now we'll get ready. We are ready for executive session. Oh, man, what is this?
Yes, we're going to go into
Okay,
executive
okay.
session.
May we have a motion to enter executive session?
Second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. We're now in executive session. Pursuant to LARS 42-1782, the Finance and Administration Committee of the Sewage and Water Board will meet in executive May we have a motion to exit executive session?
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. We're now in regular session. We'll proceed with our two presentation items. The first is a financial summary update by our CFO, Gray Lewis. Gray?
Thank you. And good morning, everyone. We've got a full agenda, so starting off with the October financial update, and then we'll be doing our annual budget presentation. So thanks for the opportunity to be here with everyone. For the month of October, we had $24.2 million in revenue, and for year-to-date, $228.3 million. We're a little ahead of a budget overall in revenue. Drainage taxes were a little behind at $1.7 million year-to-date. $69.5 million has been collected for our drainage millages. Other revenue for the month is about $12.8 million, exceeding budget with some one-time line items in there affecting other revenues for the water system. And our operating expenses were $28.1 million for the month of October. Continue to have a favorable variance in operating expenses, which we'll talk about more a little later. So for the month, our net revenues after the cash expense adjustment, the bottom left was $13.9 million utilized for debt service in our capital programs. Next slide is our cash collections for the month of November. We were at $19.3 million. Is about $400,000 less than historical averages. So we continue to monitor, work with the customer service and collections team on collections processes, because we do need to improve here. This chart, next chart, is showing the last 12 months billed versus collected on a cumulative basis. The last 12 months we were about 8% uncollected, which is higher than the 12 months a year ago, due to the consumer behavior we typically see in the holiday months. Some less, we're coming up to holiday month, but some less amount of payments. But trying to focus on that, head that off with our offers for payment plans, and of course disconnections as a last resort, which we have a chart here after this one. But this particular chart is our same chart about monthly billings for the month. So in October, we issued 147,000 bills. They were including consumption readings on 98% of the bills. So again, good results as we expected from smart metering. We've included November as well on the breakdown of ones that could not be read. So that was for 2,313 for the month of November, the lowest month we've seen due to the smart metering transformation. Next slide is our HDI report out for the month of October and November. 873,000 credit was issued by HDI. There was about 2.3 million overall in the month of October, with some larger multifamily cases in those numbers. But continue to work with Susanna's team and the HDI team on this process that was set out by City Council Curo. This particular slide, I just want to show volume of turnoffs. We had reduced monthly turnoffs. This is a number of service disconnections issued each of the last few months until November, bounced back up to a little over 600 for the month. So this is an area that we took to our consultants with Protiviti and revamping the process to do credit collections, a last resort turnoff. As we look into the future months and next year, getting up above 1,000 to 2,000 a month is easily could be done and would benefit our cash collections. So that's a high priority, which we'll be talking about. On receivables, we've mostly flat with these numbers. Still have about 64% of customers on payment plans. We actually had a net reduction in the total number of payment plans for the month of October as compared to September. It was less 35. But total number of people on payment plans at the end of the month is about 16,000 out of the 23,000 customers. I'm sorry, 15,262 out of 23,984 at the bottom right-hand corner. Our dashboard, updating the committees, we talked last month, days cash on hand for water is 95. It's actually the same number at the end of October. Sewer is 178. We looked at what we received in November and the expenses year to date, so we forecast to be above the 90 target threshold for both water and sewer, or, you know, paying particular attention to the timing of cash flows based on having been higher a year ago, as this chart is showing. October of 2024 were higher. And I actually showed the previous month, which would be September of 2025. The other line item was just going to highlight, or line 18, the past due customers, so that's greater than 60 days. At the end of October, 60.6 million. This is line 18, 60.6 million. A year ago, 65.7 million. So over a longer period of time, that's a 5 million of progress, which we, of course, like to be farther along in catching up these customers. But if we could continue to make progress over the longer term with these changes in the meter to cash process and transforming those, you know, we directionally are going in the right direction. So hoping to continue that in 26. Debt obligations, same financing we do have. We're working on one closing for the last smart metering loan through the Louisiana Department of Health. Randy signed the paperwork with that last week. Other applications, other loans are more in the application process with the lead service line, next tranche. But continue to spend down these funds on a drawdown basis, which is the majority of our loans. Capital, we had a larger month in October with 21.8 million almost spent on CapEx and new appropriations. And then in the grant side, we received 7.6 million, and that was broken down with 3.1 million JIRR, which for those projects that are our city-led projects is the funding that we turn around and pay to the city.
Ray, question on the JIRR. I've heard, I think I read that the city was stopping the projects because they're going to be past the deadline and therefore not get reimbursed. What does that do to us?
Yeah, this is we're going to be talking about this. This met with the policy attorneys last week, and there's another call this week. But the extension is in the hands of FEMA, and hoping to still get that by the end of the year. But as you mentioned, the discussion about, like, there's already steps on DPW side to go to the contractors to assess, you know, pausing or closing up the contracts. We have one transmission main project ourselves, which we could take a look at what that would look like. But I don't know, Steve, from your side, if you want to add anything.
Yeah, we do have one project. It's in the French Quarter, and we'll be making a decision here midweek as to whether or not we'll be pushing the same pause button. We did have a conversation with our lobbyists last week, and I believe we have a follow-up tomorrow afternoon. Or no, it's Wednesday afternoon on the status of that. So not nearly as large a situation, but something that we'll have to take appropriate action on.
Right. But as you mentioned, I mean, if there's not a period of performance grant, there's not a funding source, the contract has to stop.
Yeah.
Cannot pay. We don't have the funds to pay for
We
that.
have one contract at risk?
Correct.
Okay.
Thank you.
Customer experience, I was going to just mention what the average wait time was down for the month. I know there's a couple items you guys are working on following up with the committee on, but if it's all right, I was just going to wait for full update to save us some time on. the budget presentation. So this particular slide is what we talked about last couple months on two different topics, but the top side, we are updating the committee again on the minor drainage revenue. What we received was 7.9 million through August. We met with the IAB last week. We received indication from the city this September and October numbers have also been received and are being forwarded over to us. So that puts us a little closer to 9 to 9.5 million for the whole year. But we should have those hopefully in the next couple weeks. There's still ongoing discussions about the traffic camera revenue that was collected by the city, has to clear some legal hurdles to actually be passed over to us. So we don't have any new information on that I'm aware. But this will be discussed again in our budget presentation, because we make some assumptions about what revenues will be received and how minor drainage is only being spent on revenues that we can secure from the city. The bottom chart is our breakdown of the amounts due to the city under the joint infrastructure projects. We have CEAs that cover each of these. We have provided a formal response to the city's letter that was from October, describing our compliance with the various CEAs, Max Pave, 2.9 million. Other bond projects is in final reconciliation stages. There's a number of projects dating back several years for that category. And then the JIR, which we were speaking about, and the fact that it's broken up into what we're funding through our own grant 21031 project worksheet. So that's about 27.1 million that we are working to get the grant funding to pass that along back to the city, as well as paid through our sewer financing. The portion that they have utilized their own grant, 21032, has been fronted through funding agreements, 36.7 million. So we would not be able to pay that back to the city until the grant funding was received. So total 84.5 million at the end of October. We continue to track through our PDU dashboard and meet with the city. And for the month of October and November, we paid 14.7 million under JIRR back to DPW. So, any questions on October numbers? Okay. If not, I'd like to just jump into our budget presentation. And first of all, big thanks to our budget director here, the whole team. We have PFM Consultants worked with us again this year as a pretty unique cycle for our budget preparation, because we're working on our Oracle implementation project. These things had to all be done concurrently, and we try to get a little bit earlier start. So I appreciate the team's effort in doing that. And just remind the committee, we continue to follow GFOA budgeting standards. So a lot of professionals working to improve the overall presentation of numbers and intertwine the story of our strategic plan, some of the successes in our initiatives, and into the numbers, so we can really tell our story. So lots goes into this process, and look forward to your feedback. This is a draft right now, so we'll update anything we need to and then move forward. So this is the table of contents. We're going to talk about sort of who we serve, our background, our strategic plan, some of our accomplishments, and then just where we are in terms of current events, budget to actual, other external factors. And then we'll get into the numbers. So please ask questions at any point during the presentation. This particular slide, I thought that was a good snapshot, who we serve. Orleans Parish, obviously, the numbers in terms of change of population the last several decades, are noteworthy and have led to some conversations about regionalized efforts, which we continue to participate in those and see where that goes. Also, what stands out to me is we provide for costs for East Bank and West Bank water treatment plant, wastewater treatment plant, so you have dual systems, both sides of the river. Have to cover all those costs in these budgets. And then, of course, the median income in the Orleans Parish, 55,580, is noteworthy as well, as we had to meet people where they are in terms of affordability, working with them on interest-free payment plans, try and get more people caught up and regular on the water utility bills.
Ray?
Yes.
This is just some top of my head. Does Jefferson Parish also have two different water plants? Yes. So we got real
Multiple,
duplication.
You've got more than two, yeah.
Wow.
This slide is just our reminder, as you're aware, the 6 strategic areas continue to be very relevant to the utility as we try and move things forward with both financial stability, which I'm the lead on, technology modernization, which, happy to see. We have a CIO this year. We have a new IT director, both in the last 15 months. We have all the software projects that are moving forward to really help us with this Oracle project, having the financial in place first and then having this other billing system, HR payroll system feed off of the first financial one. I think will be a nice order of things. We have a new HR director, so a lot of new leadership, and of course, Randy being a new executive director to help us maintain and focus on execution, delivering in these key areas. We'll talk about a couple of accomplishments. I think sort of think about as transformative projects that are adding up. There's several of them, but just want to share my thoughts. On the drainage consolidation, this is new. It just took effect January 1, directly putting SWIBNO in control of its own destiny with that first point of entry with catch basins. There's been a lot of success in cleaning. Dave Capel, drainage network operations, and again, just getting better infrastructure reliability as we think of the large pipes down the stream. Smart metering, we talked about a lot, continue to see those benefits that you would expect. Water quality master plan, we think about what's been spent, what's been in the news the last few years with power reliability, and then the sewer consent decree. So a lot of dollars being spent on power and sewer. Water quality, the water treatment plants is the next major category that through this master planning effort, we have lists of both 5-year and 25-year CIP. So the master plans come together. They're going to bring it to the board in January to give us some clear projects. So you'll see in the budget, we have something to do with the basins and chemical pilot program that has been informed by this master planning. So very important to have the water be the next major area of focus as we look ahead.
Right. Before you move on, going back to drainage consolidation, how do those numbers compare with the past year in terms of how we're doing compared to what the city did in prior years?
Well, for dollars and cents, the minimum we need is about $25 million a year. We'll have received just shy of 8 this year, and with that $8 million, we'll be probably over 9,000 catch basins and 500,000 linear feet of line. What I think is the more telling statistic that's not on here is the number of pounds of debris. 10.5 million pounds of debris has been removed, which is more than double what the city was able to remove. And that's through Dave Capel had the bright idea to price that out for our contractors per ton versus linear foot. So the bang for the buck has been there. We just got to figure out how to get the revenues.
Okay.
The traffic cameras will be key.
But at fiscal ¡24, the DPW cleaning is very minimal compared to what has been pulled out.
Yeah, there's our dashboard at swbno.org has those direct numbers.
Okay. This slide, just a reminder on the power complex. We're obviously very excited about the ribbon cutting and all the benefits that's bringing with the dedicated substation, new static frequency changers, and GSO just leading this transformation that goes along with such a large asset that's now part of the arsenal here. And then the customer portal, this is, if you think about a year ago, we asked all our customers to go sign up with a new portal, but this is very consistent with what, putting data in the hands of the customer in a user-friendly technology, web-based system that allows them to see much more and improve their overall user experience. So that's very aligned with a better customer experience through the utility, because they're looking at us every single month, and now we can look at things daily. So excited for that project. This slide is just a reminder on our overall calendar process. We did a similar chain of events or process, and we do a bottoms-up approach. We ask department managers and leaders to come in and provide asks. We look at historical spending for the first several months of the year, talk to them about their plans, how they tie into our utility strategic plan and the master planning for each of the 3 systems, and all those things inform the process, talk internally, and then we, as we are here today, asking for feedback from the finance committee so that we can present to the full board. Next slide. Included this just as a high-level update or reminder of how the guardrails we use when we build a budget that's prudent and will allow us to meet our bond covenants. So we have 2 primary financial metrics that our numbers have to achieve, or you'll be in an action level with the Board of Liquidations. That's our cash reserve. A day's cash on hand is a liquidity measure. We have sufficient unrestricted cash available for 90 days of operations. So that's applicable to the water sewer system. The drainage system has tax bonds, a little different, but we still maintain a similar policy to ensure liquidity for the drainage system as well. Also, on the affordability side, debt service coverage would mandate that we have sufficient net revenues to pay our debt amortization that's coming due requirement. So that's net revenues have to be 1.25 times your annual debt service. And then on the drainage side is 1.33, and that's measured by the first collection of the millages from the 9 mill. So what we presented and pulled together today all meets these minimum requirements. Next slide is our budget to actual results. And as I mentioned earlier, we're tracking above the days cash on hand for water and sewer expenses. We have some favorable variances, about 6.8 million in water, 19 million in sewer, that indicating once we get all the way through the audit, we got to finish December, we got to go through our audit. So all those expenses are captured. The year-end number, which is audited, will get reported in our annual comprehensive financial report. So that's for both of these metrics. So the cash on hand, we've included these charts just to show how we ended up once we get to the audited numbers in June. So for fiscal 24 is 184 for water, 265 for sewer. For debt service coverage, which is the chart at the bottom of the page, we're showing what we included in our annual budget. So we built expenses to be spent throughout fiscal 24. 1.9 million was our budgeted debt service coverage, where we actually ended up with the audits numbers. So that's all of our expenses getting captured as 2.51, and then 2.87 for sewer compared to budget 1.98. So if we look at the last 3 years, really, we've seen some sufficiency. It indicates, some flexibility in how we set up the budget. I think would be appropriate. So that's just one factor we consider in addition to our year-to-date results. The next slide is our revenues. We're at 98.5 million for water year-to-date. So we're slightly above for water, sewer is slightly below. Important to note, there's no rate increases this year. So January 1, 2020 is our last rate increase. So we're sort of just operating flat on revenues. And then our audited revenues are shown here, 112 million, 150.6 for sewer. Cash collections were 224 million year-to-date through November 2025, which is down about 9 million from year-to-date November 2024. As we talked about, this is an area we need to improve on, have revamped processes to have more disconnections to ensure that we stay stable with our cash collections, actually improve cash collections to be able to spend that money. Tax revenues, 3 millages have upcoming expiration dates as we look at a slide in the future, but that revenue is about 69.5 million through the year are audited. Their end of year 74.4 million. So that includes taxes that are paid, late, very late, once you actually get some recovery, but the majority is received in the first several months of the year. And that's held with the Board of Liquidation. This slide is just recapping the water sewer drainage year-to-date O&M expenses. It has a very favorable variance as I discussed. And then the excess cash is what we have to use to pay debt service, and then have an amount for PAYGO capital. Let's see here. A couple other external factors that we thought were important to highlight. We do have change in administrations that have occurred. Really going back to Governor Landry came out of a task force. We have immediate changes with drainage consolidation after that. As we talked about, we have a presidential change in administration now in place. So we're keeping an eye on any of these changes, that whether the EPA or FEMA. GOSEP has already changed at the state level with reorganization there. But each of these, I think what we've seen is a increased checks and balances on reimbursements that we submit. We have to work directly with those partners, which we are doing, but the shift in federal funding policy, could significantly impact the lead and copper roll program, for example. So that is something that we'll have to take into consideration as soon as we know, potentially, amend the budget if needed. All these things, that we have a change in administration here in the city. So lots to keep an eye on in terms of federal policy and state policy. And then one that's every year, of course, as the residents know about, is our unique weather situation with frequent hurricanes and tropical storms have resulted historically in pretty significant costs to repair and get the systems back online, and then also have long-term impacts on the aging of the infrastructure. So happy we had a pretty quiet hurricane season last couple years, but that's something that each year is a risk factor. So these budget priorities, as you would expect, we need to maintain financial stability. We need to prioritize capital projects. And then as we think about the utility as a service company or agency, we have a lot of people, lots to keep track of. We have a lot of initiatives with new technology and new organizational groups, work through civil service to identify positions. But this bullet was just to emphasize we recognize the need for more precise budgeting and tracking of these positions to ensure that they're delivering the results and through reorganization, technology transformation, or producing the intended results, and then also help us with recruiting. That's another key area that we'll need for success. So we have a slide on the personnel. Talk about that a little bit. So here are the numbers as we look at our cash spending, what we need to spend in fiscal 26 was about 279.9 million, so it's up about 7.3%. And we break that into water, sewer, drainage, the three systems, and then overall debt service and pay-go capital. And this factors in, really mandatory or increases that are mandated on us by the suppliers in terms of water, chemicals, and treatment processes that are required. On the drainage system, important to note that we include the minor drainage expenses of 10.2 million. We track those separately because those are always going to be dependent on the ability to gain this city funding, which our assumption there is the portion that is funded by IMF and an amount for traffic camera revenue. So that's about 10 million. So that, including those expenses on the expense side, makes the drainage expenses higher. Additionally, you have some costs that are passed through the Southeast Louisiana Flood Protection Authority, the closure for the permanent canal closure pumps. Those particular costs are issued to us through our CEA, but have to be paid through the drainage system, and that's one that's gone up. Cost of power, cost of the substation, each of these are something that's new, but part of our transformation and our hope. And I think we looked at the numbers to see that through not having to use as much gas, through electricity, we'll have some savings, but there are hard costs directly with the substation that are now present.
The 7 point, this is operating budget here or all?
Operating, yes.
So the 7.3% increase in revenues, is that evenly spread over the three categories, or is it?
This is expenses or spending 7.3 million increase.
Or this is just expenses?
Inclusive of, we say expenses, cash spent for debt service and
Sorry, I
pay-go.
got confused there. Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
we'll talk about revenue. Think of the next slide. On this slide, we've done a high-level snapshot of our financial needs and then outflows on a cash basis. We'll talk about assumptions in a couple of slides, but just breaking out between water, sewer, drainage, operating revenues, non-operating, and then our cash operating expenses. So you see here on the water, we've included $3 million under fair share. So the Infrastructure Advisory Board continues to operate as an entity that is overseeing the Infrastructure Maintenance Fund, which is tourism taxes collected and being provided to the utility through 75% of that comes and is available for water, sewer, drainage for projects that are approved by the IAB. So we've met with them last week. We did receive approval on these 2 water treatment plant projects, about $3 million. So we've included that here. We've reflected some other sources in our capital budget for IAB projects, but that particular funding has been very critical and crucial to having another recurring source of revenue that's not the ratepayer water sewer. That's helped us with the power complex, helped us with smart metering. In this case, these projects, will allow 2 of the water quality master planning projects get started this year in Q1. And then on the drainage side that I talked about, we reflect this 10 million that is coming in from the city through the IAB's, what used to be a 25% share that went to DPW. With the drainage consolidation, that 25% share of the IMF is coming to the minor drainage system. And we also have the traffic camera revenues. We have an estimate for what will be received through that revenue. So the key point here at the bottom is just showing that our residual cash after all these expenses, we strategically or need to set aside. We don't want to just get it all used up in the O&M standpoint, because we do have requests that could continue to come in, but it's important to set aside for capital and then be clear with our the leaders that we have to meet our debt service, or we have another issue. But
Great, I have a quick question. Would you characterize our projection for this budget as conservative, as in line with past years? How would you characterize how we've approached this? Because I appreciate the residual cash that we have in each line, but I'm just.
yeah, yeah, we've continued to build the conservatism, so I think that ties into the risk factors with the weather, the need to be, we look at actual expenses over several years. We go back to departments, just talk about, we haven't spent, so we have to balance it, but we do tend to conservatism to protect, the needs coming from the decision makers in the field.
Thanks.
So talk about, next slide is on revenue, what we've assumed here. So we've reflected just a 2% nominal increase in water sewer revenues, mainly from meter data management cleanup, revenue recovery efforts that are needed as we think about the smart meter transformation. So should see some pickup top line revenue there. We have a large meter installs with smart meterings still to get completed. So a little bit, but not anything to the extent of what a rate increase would provide. Drainage revenue, we've talked about the 10 million, and then our fair share revenue, the total amount of fair share, about 26 million. It's broken up between the 75%, which could be split between water, sewer, drainage, and then the 25% for minor drainage. So nothing much different on the revenue side. Expenditures, showing a chart breaking down by or different categories, which personnel, as we mentioned, is the highest. But when we looking at this chart, we're showing a total increase about 6.4%, and that's 386 million in our recommended budget. So that's inclusive of non-cash expenses. But the largest, as we look at our cash expenses, personnel's up about 4.9%. So this would be all the position requests, all the reorganizations, which the general superintendent has had a large amount with the deputy GSO organization, the meter data management, plumbing division coming back under the GSO. So each of these has org charts and plans to, have those departments deliver on strategic plans and take the technology, the data that we've been able to achieve with this smart metering and really put that into operation. You have similar situation with the power complex, the whole change in how that entity is operating with technology. On the materials and supplies, that was another increase we see in these numbers, 9.4 million year over year higher. So within the chemical line items, and this would also include our drainage, minor drainage cleaning, it's up 4 million. We're seeing increases coming to us that are contractually escalation increases in those chemical contracts that we'll need to pay in 2026.
Great, another question for you. Just paying attention to the personnel investment line and the call out that it's the largest expense. Is that's typical, no? Or what's your sort of qualitative take on that?
Yeah, for the utility as a service organization, that's typical, yes. So that's I think, appropriate that we need the right type of people in the right levels because they're out there servicing the system 24/7, and that's normal for a utility.
Okay.
Our next slide is breaking up all of our expenses by division. Again, happy about the Chief Information Officer division that's newly established. It's being so those numbers were historically under the CAO, Chief Administration Officer. So under Daryl's leadership, they've developed some plans for both the IT director and some other IT directors to oversee things like cybersecurity and electronic data records, things that are needed, you know, to bring the utility forward. So excited about that. Operations in this chart is right there in the middle. The 225 million is about 80%. So as you would expect, the lion's share of all the numbers. That number is up a little bit. It was 76% last year. This next chart is our personnel. Let's see, I'm getting messed up here. Personnel chart we discussed. This year we working with the CAO, the HR team, the budget team. We broken out our vacant positions into a more kind of accurate definition of active vacants. That means there's 100% funded at the beginning of the budget year. And so numbers-wise, where we sit at 1,280 filled positions, broken up by all these divisions. There's 142 active vacancies. So that means there's recruiting effort. There's ability to go do that recruiting and onboarding as you begin the budget year. The 274 is to be other positions that are not 100% funded and are a placeholder for future plans to execute on. But if we look at the division, you see that, again, the heavy weighting of operations, 984. We have the 3D GSO system to keep track of. There's a lot of people to keep track of. But again, I think working through his new leadership and of course Randy's oversight, this will be a key area to watch closely, because you know, as you take a look, you do have a sense of like, wow, it takes that many people to do X, Y, and Z. You know, why is that? So really being able to break that down and drill down into what, through technology, through effective systems, you know, where can we be the most efficient and not just always add people, but be efficient with data. Let's see.
Great.
Question?
In terms of personnel services and these positions, are these new positions, or are we trying to fill vacancies that we've talked about in the past that need to be filled?
It'd be a combination. You have some that have existed, some have been created new through civil service actions to create a new position that is, it perhaps pays better, has the right skill set to match. So those have been worked through civil services process of creating a new position, but it would be a combination of both. And this is inclusive of both citywide positions and utility-specific positions. So there's kind of two different paths when you break it down that way. This next slide is our coverage requirements, and this is getting back to the guardrails of how we develop the operating budget to ensure that we meet the debt covenants for water. The system using these budget expenses would be at 1.72, sewer at 2.17 for fiscal 26, and then the drainage 3.15 would be covered by the 9 mil tax. So if there's any questions on the operating side, we have a couple more things on then we'll move into capital. This calculations are surplus that we've talked about being a residual calculation to help us put aside some amount of the ratepayer funding that's coming in for PAYGO financing. So this is 32.1 million as we look at the bottom, and then we look at it by system is about 9 million for water, 17 million for sewer, and $6 million for drainage. And that's specifically current year pay-go, so we don't have that at the beginning of the year. All of a sudden, you're getting 1/12 of that throughout the year as you're receiving your ratepayer funding and you're paying out your expenses. So something we have to work closely with the GSO on due to the things that tend to break during the year. That'll lead us into the capital discussion here. So as I mentioned, we developed this along with the O&M budget. We identify all the uses that comes in. This is largely driven by the GSO and the chief of engineering, work through all our projects. We have 155 discrete capital project line items, and we're gonna be maintaining that as we look at the Oracle implementation. So we have projects either dedicated to water, sewer, or drainage, or shared services, which would be our IT systems or vehicle fleet. So we'll continue to use those.
Gray, when we had prepped for this meeting, I mentioned that I thought going forward, we should be breaking down drainage between the major drainage and the minor drainage for a couple reasons. One is, as I understand it, the drainage millage is only available for the major system. Is that correct?
I have a question about that with the bond council, but I think that's come up before.
And also, it's important for the public to understand that we can't treat, I mean, that when we took on the minor drainage, it was on their commitment to provide us with funding. And if the funding doesn't come in, we can't do it. So we need to be making that visible, I think. But beyond that, I mean, is Oracle set up to deal with those separately also? You just mentioned water, sewer, and drainage.
Yeah, the minor system drainage capital projects will be tracked separately. So we'll distinguish those from regular drainage projects.
O&M?
O&M would have a separate organization or tracking for
So
minor
it's not a
drainage.
problem, the new system?
No. Okay, good question. So I think we talked about the process. This slide is updating us on where we are with 2025 on the capital side. So obviously smart metering, power complex, the sewer consent decrees, all big accomplishments to get through in 25. Lead and copper rule program has been delayed for the planned rebidding of the program management contract. There's also some legal questions about dealing with, this would involve replacing lead service lines on private properties. Legal questions have to be addressed to get that going. But we have 86 million of funding secured for this. It's on a reimbursement basis, so we've only drawn down a little bit in fiscal 25 so far. We have additional $66 million application. We understand that funding is available, so we'll continue to pursue that because this is a very large 10-year program. We could up to $1 billion, but there will be funding dependent, but also dependent on these next steps that are planned for lead and copper rule.
And just for some clarification, we do have an official opinion that we received, that we have sent to the Attorney General, and we're waiting that official opinion from the Attorney General.
Right. Our wastewater treatment plant upgrade, we talked about last budget cycle. We've secured through a $38.9 million DEQ loan. The design of that has been completed. We're starting the advertising phases, a little bit delayed from the anticipated timing of phase 1 in 2025, but so it'll be coming. And those first major upgrades to the wastewater treatment plants in several decades. The JIRR has the needed extension we were talking about earlier to extend the period of performance. The city's asking for three additional years to 12/31/2028. So we're again waiting to hear about that. And then we think about after our mega projects, the remaining projects without some other dedicated external funding just get captured in PAYGO, and we've we're able to accomplish about 24 million in fiscal '25 out of the 33.6 million estimated. This couple examples were DPS 3, 4, and 15. I had to purchase some fire hydrants to get some replacements of those as mandated by the chief of fire. And then, of course, the software project that we've been talking about is almost 5 million was funded through PAYGO during fiscal '25. Next chart was just two big summary charts on our capital budget for fiscal '26 that we're recommending. And we've broken it up into, we call mega projects. These are ones that have either external funding sources or some type of complete financing plan. And you'll see same names that we've been talking about, but to the extent that they're substantially completed now, we might be in some wrap-up phases. The water hammer mitigation, kind of a similar situation that was completed a while back. The last phases of that are going to just be about $1 million estimated to finish there. The middle categories under refurbishment, replacement, and repair tend to only be PAYGO financed. So we show about 32.1 million in refurbishment and replacement, 11.9 million in repair. Those will be prioritized depending on the GSO interaction. We have one grant for the Green Infrastructure Program, 900,000 being financed through the NDR. But this is also the similarly grouped numbers. You notice they'll be smaller, such that these middle two categories are really only between 32% or less funded. So it's not saying that we will spend the money on these particular buckets. It's subject to GSO approval in terms of what's the criticality, what has to get fixed from a capital standpoint. And Kevin's team, the assistant budget director, works closely with the GSO's team to allocate PAYGO throughout the year, every month as needed. So the total on sources, 245 million. So as we've done consistently the past few years, we draft up the amendment saying this amount is identified. Any additional source would have to be identified, otherwise the project would be deferred until that time.
So in other words, this is what it costs versus what we have to deal with it.
Right. Because we have, I think, strategically been in a better place the last couple of years with the infrastructure financing person. Patrick Gatens has been involved and has been helpful for us to show we have these costs, identified. We have applications. So working with him and the GSO team and the budget team to be able to take projects to people. We've already gotten some things on the list for capital outlay for this upcoming fiscal legislation session, having those relationships in Baton Rouge. And obviously this is something Randy's emphasized to us, think creatively, make the ask. Let's go down and develop a relationship. So appreciate Randy's leadership in this area.
For budget purposes, do we have a chart that shows what the cost of the project is and what we actually expect in that year?
Yes, yeah,
Is that coming up?
that's what we reflect as we think about submitted uses would be provided by the engineer, their engineering estimate of what cost is that in this fiscal year, what might be in out years, future years.
But do we have something that's, and forgive me if we talked about that the other day, do we have something that shows what a project is going to cost in the year, the capital year, and what we expect to actually receive in that year?
Yes, that's will be the underlying data that we use to these charts.
Okay.
So this is what we've pulled together for all those 155 projects, roll into those last two tables. This slide I wanted to highlight for the committee on the bonding capacity. These are the three for the three systems. So drainage tax bonds, what we have, so 3 mil, 6 mil, 9 mil tax. You see the upcoming expiration date, 2027 for 6 mil. We have actively working on the stormwater rate fee proposal with Raftellus is going through the strategic committee. We'll be getting board feedback and of course public input and feedback on a system that would provide a revenue source that could be, you could do financial forward-looking planning and do more bonding. But as we sit here now, we have 2 of the 3 mills expiring in like the next 5 or 6 years. So definitely the time for action is now on drainage. On the revenue bonds, which we issue for water and sewer, that's the main source of financing. Those are pledging the rate revenue that's coming from those customer rates. We wanted to just show the committee's benefit, the additional bonds test, which is what you're asserting to in your bond application, that you would have sufficient net revenues to cover additional debt service during a 5-year financial forward-looking period. So what we've just tried to demonstrate is, in the water system, is if you are flat with revenues, this is showing about a 0.5% increase in top-line revenues. And then you have expenses, which they're in the middle. We're just growing those at like a rate of inflation over a future 5-year period. You're effectively getting squeezed in terms of what your net revenues would be going down each year. And then when you're trying to issue new debt, we're actually going to be increasing our debt service. And all these kind of leave us in a situation where we're showing a senior debt service coverage of 1.97, but by fiscal 29 at 1.22. So we're dropping below. So we're needing to adjust expenses. We're needing to increase revenue. We need to do something to meet coverage in the out years. Additional bonds test is a different type of test that actually, where you're adding debt service, you're going to be paying back more debt and then needing to show sufficient coverage to do that. So we not able to do that at this time, as indicated by going into red with the 1.08 in fiscal 27. So as again, talking with Randy, with proactively looking, we know the stormwater fee is a first step in terms of like getting a better rate modeling, but we also have the same situation with water and sewer in terms of needing to educate the public and our stakeholders about water rate increases, sewer rate increases are sort of inevitable to come with higher costs of maintaining the system. The historical going back decades, it'd be kind of several years or decades without a rate increase, and we had 8 years of 10% rate increases from 2013 to 2020, but now we're almost 6 years from that. So we need a more stable, like either tied to inflation or something for this future financial planning to be more aligned with best practice in utility financing.
Great. To your point about public education on this, and understanding that this might be or probably is an overwhelming visual for the average New Orleanian. It's overwhelming for me, to be honest. Can you translate this in such a way that the majority of our population can understand? What's the take-home message from this snapshot?
I think future rate increases are important to be able to invest in the system. So we're not wanting to go to the ratepayer for rate increases, number one, right, as our first step, but we can only do so much with these other creative forms of financing and going to other avenues. There's some, at point, your realization as a part of the community, we're all paying for the system. We want a good system, so we have to invest in it. So just kind of recognizing that reality and then the costs of providing these services in this geographic footprint is not the cheapest, you know, as you compare yourself to other jurisdictions, but it is an investment to get improved systems.
And I understand that this is a help, that this is going to strategy committee
Mhm.
for public treatment and.
Yeah, and roll out. I think, you know, my question is, you know, these appropriately shaded red boxes, right, are a warning sign, and I just want those who are watching to understand exactly what they mean. And while we're following and listening, and I'm able to follow your, you know, the timeline that you're provided and what we're headed toward, I just want to make sure those who are listening can really understand, digest, and take away what you're trying to warn us about.
Yeah, it's accurate. And we also have dealt with the sort of the issue by not issuing more debt, like deferring capital. We've taken those steps. So we're just looking ahead 5 years, and you think a lot can change with a lot of different variables. But as we do financial planning, looking out that far is a way to get the conversation started, get the through our leadership and the mayors and mayor-elect, you know, get people understanding, because I think that it's been a pretty clear message that people want improved city services. So now, you know, there's some planning and financial impacts to that.
Correct, they're not free.
Last couple of things, I just included this slide as we've been talking about the different ways we can finance capital. We look to each of these, but it's not one or the other. But our typical comment is to, you know, Sewage and Water Board issue more bonds, but that's at a certain cost, and it ends up being on the ratepayer for the next 20 or 30 years. We prefer grants. We've had some success with the forgivable loans, so we're again making all of our asks for those. And most helpful, I think, for our bond rating agencies is seeing that in our audited financials, we deliver capital the last few years, that it's increased because of the power complex, smart metering. So that's been encouraging to our bond rating agencies who are seeing a lot of deferred CIP that we have. And when we can show that we put it in the ground, we pay, you know, got it on the books, it's helping our bond rating case. So, yeah, next steps, we drafted the resolutions, but if any other questions, happy to take those.
Any questions? Yeah?
Good.
Thank you, Greg, and the team also for all the work that went into the preparation of that. That's a daunting task, I know, every year to try to figure out what the future is going to look like, especially with constrained resources.
That's right.
Thank you. All right, so now we'll move on to our action items, General Superintendent's recommendations.
All right. Good morning. We have 3 contract renewals, 1 amendment, and 6 change orders by ratification. So a little bit shorter agenda this month over last, and I would expect to continue to become shorter as we finish up construction in our SERP basins. We will take these items in globo by group, starting with the contract renewals. The first is Resolution R-151, 2025. This is the second and final renewal of Contract 30247 for the restoration of gravity flow sanitary sewers by excavation replacement from manhole to manhole, CIPP lining from manhole to manhole, CIPP lining of service laterals, and point repairs at various sites throughout the city of New Orleans between the Sewage and Water Board of New Orleans and CMG Pipelines, Inc. This, as I mentioned, is the final renewal. This will be another renewal for the amount of $2,799,780. This will take the total contract value to $12,653,641.46. The next is our third renewal, our third of 4 renewals under Resolution R-166, 2025. of contract 2022 SWB 46. This is for the furnishing of liquid fluorosilicic acid to the Carrollton and Algiers water plants. This is how we add fluoride to our drinking water. Between the Sewerage and Water Board of New Orleans and Univar Solutions USA, Inc. This is a renewal in the amount of $417,950 and will bring the total contract value to $1,636,700. And the third is a month-to-month renewal of contract 8164 under resolution R167 2025. This is for skilled and unskilled labor for the maintenance of facilities between the Sewerage and Water Board of New Orleans and JEI Solutions, Inc. This is a month-to-month extension. The rebid of that scope of work is out. We expect that to be awarded in a new contract by April 1st of next year. This is a renewal in the amount of $950,000. This will take the total revised contract value to $22,394,624. Are there any questions on these three renewals?
Thank you, Steve. When you mention it's a month-to-month renewal, so we should see this again for the next meeting, and we're talking about another $950K each time?
No, great question. This is a month-to-month renewal that will take us through April, at
Okay.
which time we'll have a whole brand-new contract. So the intent is for this to be the only time you see JEI again.
Okay, got you.
All right. Well, may I have a motion to approve contract awards renewals resolutions R-151, 2025, R-166, 2025, and R-167, 2025?
Okay.
Any discussion? Public comment?
No public comment, Chair.
All in favor? Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you very much. We have one contract amendment under Resolution R-168, 2025. This is an authorization of amendment number 11 to the agreement between the Sewerage and Water Board of New Orleans and GEC, Inc. for design and engineering services for the waterline replacement program. This is a professional services agreement. We've recently bid work to complete an NDR project on Bayou St. John. This is an amendment in the amount of $225,000, bringing the total contract value to $1,587,238.15. This will allow the consultant to inspect and respond to construction-related questions on this project. Are there any questions on this amendment?
Okay, if not, may I have a motion to approve contract awards renewals resolution R-168-2025? Discussion? Public comment?
No public comment, Chair.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you very much. We have 6 change orders by ratification, of which 5 of those are related to the Carrollton Basin SERP program. It starts with Resolution R-169, 2025. This is a ratification of change order number 10 for contract 1376 for the Water Hammer Hazard Mitigation Program for the High Lift Pumping Station and Panola Pumping Station between the Sewerage and Water Board and M.R. Pittman Group, LLC. This is a change order request in the amount of $136,992.24. DBE participation goal was set at 25.26%. They were able to achieve 18.12%. The reason they have not met is in the fact sheet and relates to the purchase of motors and other equipment that did not have a DBE component to it. We're in the final stages of that project and should be able to finish up here in early Q1 of next year. The next is a ratification under Resolution R-170, 2025 for change order number 4 to contract 30233, Carrollton Basin number 4 sewer rehabilitation between the Sewerage and Water Board of New Orleans and Hard Rock Construction, LLC. This is a change order in the amount of $343,750.36. This will bring the total contract value to $22,551,164.90. DBE participation target was 36%. They were able to achieve 29.9%. And they may be able to get a little bit more, but this one may be somewhat short. We do have better news on other contracts, but this contractor, their subs were not able to deliver quite as much. The next is under Resolution R-175, 2025. This is a ratification of change order number 3 for contract 30253 in the Carrollton Basin number 12 between the Sewerage and Water Board of New Orleans and BLD Services, LLC. This is a change order in the amount of $338,862, bringing the total contract value to $3,579,658.70. DBE target was 36.05%. They've achieved 55.38%. The next is a ratification of change order number 5 under Resolution R-176, 2025, for contract 30256 in the Carrollton Basin, number 15, for sewer rehabilitation between the Sewerage and Water Board of New Orleans and Hard Rock Construction LLC. This is a change order in the amount of $104,380.74, bringing the contract total to $8,720,153.95. Their DBE target was 36%. They have achieved 26%. The next is a ratification of change order number 3 under Resolution R-177, 2025 for contract 30257 in the Carrollton Basin, number 16, for sewer rehabilitation services between the Sewerage and Water Board of New Orleans and Wallace Drennan LLC. This is a change order in the amount of $80,537.61, bringing the contract total to $15,936,122.95. DBE participation target was 36.79%. They were able to achieve 46.46%. The final change order, this is a ratification of change order number 7 under Resolution R-178, 2025, change order 7 for contract 30260 in the Carrollton Basin, number 19, for sewer rehabilitation work between the Sewerage and Water Board of New Orleans and Hard Rock Construction LLC. This is a change order in the amount of $795.59, bringing the contract total to $11,145,343.97. And the DBE participation goal was 36.56%. They were able to achieve 15.82%. It's forecast to be 16, which is essentially where it is now. Mitchell Contracting, Inc., which was going to perform CIPP lining, is no longer able to perform those services. So that's the reason our DBE goals were shorter there. Are there any questions on any of these changes?
Yes, what should we expect as next steps for these contractors who are below the DBE goal?
They're continuing to work with our DBE office and our project managers. If they are not able to meet, like with this last contractor, we need at a minimum to understand why that is and make sure that they've made every effort that they can to meet that DBE participation. In this instance, their sub, who was performing the cured in place pipe lining, no longer does that. So that makes a challenge, but we are working hard to at least get solid documentation that they're making the efforts that they need to.
Okay, thanks.
And that effort could also include getting another DBE to replace the current one that's unable to meet the current requirements.
Yeah, awesome.
Good question, thank you.
So may I have a motion to approve contract change order by ratification resolutions R-169, 2025, R-170, 2025, R-175, 25, R-176, 2025, R-177, 2025, and R-178, 2025.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Any public comment?
One public comment? No, I'm sorry. Okay, no public comment, Chair.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right, we have one miscellaneous item. This is under Resolution R-149, 2025. This is the resolution of the execution of a cooperative endeavor agreement between the City of New Orleans and the Sewerage and Water Board of New Orleans for improvement to the Monticello Canal. There has been a capital outlay request for many years that was moved from Priority 5 to Priority 1 in a recent legislative session. That will allow us to make some upgrades to the Monticello Canal. This is just for the initial study and design phase, so this is an agreement that will allow the city to transfer those funds to us. This will be an important project. That Holly Grove Dixon neighborhood does have some flooding issues, and we want to see whatever we can do to help, and getting state money is a big support. Are there any questions?
All right, may I have a motion to approve final acceptance?
This is miscellaneous item, Resolution R-149, 2025.
Okay. May I have a motion to approve, where is it on the agenda?
Miscellaneous.
I mean, on my, it's not on my list, okay. May I have a motion to approve resolution R-149, 2025? There it is.
So moved.
Second.
Public comment?
No public comment, Chair.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, there are 4 information items for committee members to be at the convenience. Are there any public comments?
Yes, Chair, we have one public comment, and that's from Sage Michael. Michelle, sorry.
It's a pleasure being here. It's my first time being Sweet and Water Bowl on this end. I come here today as a citizen of New Orleans East. I observed sewage discharge on Dwight Canal. I reported that, and I did get email correspondence with Steve Nelson for responding to that. I thank you for being very timely, even on your phone over the weekend. Thank you for that. I want to know if this event classified as an event that affects public health and environment, and that we are in compliance reporting requirements within the 24-hour notification to EPA and 5-day written, and also the follow-up. I want to know if public notification was given out as part of the requirement process to the community and the public, press conference, and those list of things that are required by the consent decree. What is the EPA response to this? And also, thank you for, I want to seek project prioritization for the sewer line replacement in New Orleans East, especially these affecting the Dwyer Canal. Unfortunately, that the subcontractor lost his contract, I understand that. But also, these 2 lift stations that I reported concern on at Charlene and Dwyer and near Gawain and Dwyer, that's going through some issues. I'm not sure officially, but there are bypass sewage installations. My aspect have been compromised. Right now, as we speak, it's releasing sewer gases in the air because there are open manholes that these force pumps are installed into, and it's affecting that community. Like right now, does discharge release amounts of sewage directly into the Dwyer Canal. I've seen it, I documented it, and I know it was a response, but that also pollutes my home all the way down by Academy Park. And it pollutes the groundwater as well. I'm concerned for those neighbors' health. I did not have a good weekend, but thankful for Steve responding. So is there assessment of the risk to ensure that the consent decree is in compliance in the public health? So I know that this will take longer conversations. I'm here to seek collaboration with Steve Nelson and make sure that the EP involved. I'm an eyewitness of the matter. I could give some expert testimony. I could hold standing, and I'm just seeking some remedies. And thankful for the work you've done. And if you could address this health situation that's going on right now, I would appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's sewer, and thank you very much for emailing me about it and reporting it. We had a situation, we have a sewer lift station where we have a bypass pump, and the hose at the bypass pump was spraying out of the manhole. We were able to get on site that morning, get it replaced. We will be, and have been, and do follow our consent decree notification requirements, so we'll be letting EPA and LDH know about discharge. We had our operations crew on site, should have fixed that pump, and I've asked that they make sure that they keep a good eye so that we don't have any discharge. And anything we do have discharge that gets into a canal, we need to work to recover and dilute as much as possible.
Just right quick, I just have a concern with the installation itself. Sanitary code requires P-traps on all fixtures. That's to not have sewer gases released out open manholes, and that. Thank you.
Yeah, so go ahead.
So Steve, why don't you meet with Mr. Sage after this
Yeah,
meeting?
absolutely.
So we can further get his concerns
You bet.
actually handled, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you for your public comment, sir.
So if there are no other matters, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
All in favor? Aye. Any, motion carries, we're now adjourned. Thank you. Everybody.
Thanks for the follow-up on General Pershing.
Oh, yes.
All right, thank you.